Throughout time, we've been told that dragons are vicious and they're fierce. And of course, even though if we look through history, there's a lot of depictions of ferocious dragons. There's many different stories that tell many different tales. There's always the story of how the dragon protects the treasure and how dragon's blood can heal, for example. Of course, we know dragon's blood is the sap from a tree, and it can be resin, so as we burn this for protection. Ancient cultures have many stories of benevolent storm gods that defeated giant sea dragons to save humankind, like Yahweh's battle. But if we really want to look into dragons, we should start with Leviathan. And Leviathan tale is very old. Leviathan is a dragon. And it's been told many times. It's surrounded by great mystery and shared by Christians. Slightly different variations do exist. It changes a lot in little ways, but the gist of the story generally stays the same. Leviathan was an extremely primordial creature and very fearsome. He ruled over all of the sea and the beasts within the sea, very capable of causing quite a lot of destruction, might I add. He was an extremely enormous sea creature of his time, or a monster, you could say, I guess, it depends. The gods created Leviathan to inflict the fear on humans, it's said. It is believed that that's how it was created. He did roam the seas, but he was commanded and did as the gods actually told him to do. The gods thought they needed control of the waters, and when Leviathan lived, that time fishing was vast and travelling the water was vast within these times, so the gods believed that the sea was the lifeline to the whole planet, and that controlling Leviathan and bringing Leviathan in to help would maintain the balance of the sea. It was extremely powerful, Leviathan. It was said that he had an enormous mouth with razor-sharp teeth, very capable of destroying anything in his path. Something special was that he did not have any eyes. But just because he did not have any eyes did not mean he did not know the waters. You see, Leviathan knew the waters without sight. He was so used to it. He knew every crook and every crevice, and instincts drove him through water. He was very at one with the element, let's say. Under the command of the gods, Leviathan would hunt and also destroy, when instructed, people and boats, etc. It's believed that Leviathan would lay with his prey before he actually ate it. He quite enjoyed coming upon ships and circling them, and he would definitely instill fear into people. Generally, the ships would end up in pieces by the time he'd finished. Of course, Leviathan being Leviathan and having that primordial instinct, he started hunting and killing without the gods saying so. This very much angered the gods, as they believed this was a complete unbalancing of the sea. They did, however, see this as a way to gain trust of humans that they'd previously lost. You see, people that travelled upon ships that heard of Leviathan, that feared Leviathan, would pray to the gods to keep them safe and to make sure they got to where they needed to be safely. So they saw that as gaining the humans' trust. Of course, eventually they realised that they could not control Leviathan, and they really couldn't bring themselves to kill him because he'd been around a long time and was very much part of the sea and of them, I guess. It's like, you create something and no matter what, they didn't want to kill Leviathan, but they knew they could not control him. There was a debate, and they were debating whether they should catch and imprison Leviathan, and decided this was probably a good idea. On a stormy night, as Leviathan rose above the shaky sea to destroy a boat, he thought, lightning struck him. The lightning was so powerful that it sent him into shock, and in this moment, he was unable to move. Within a matter of seconds, a chain came from the sky and clasped Leviathan's neck like a collar. The gods had created the chain so that Leviathan could not break through it. It could not be destroyed by anything other than the gods, so it was safe to imprison him with. The only people able to release it from his neck would be any of the gods. They took Leviathan to the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean, where he was imprisoned. And hundreds of years later, the gods were having this large disagreement. You see, humans, they kind of began taking a lot for granted, and they didn't put any faith in the gods and took what they wanted, unruly, I guess, uncontrolled and sort of unbalanced. It was upsetting all this balance that was going on. Some of the gods, they wanted to release Leviathan and let him free to do what he needed to do, and the other half believed that this would cause even further destruction, so they should really just leave him chained up. And the argument got completely out of control within seconds. Majorly out of control. I mean, these are gods arguing, Unfortunately, while that was happening, Son broke the chain around Leviathan, and instantly Leviathan, feeling how he felt, lunged at Son, tearing him apart. He was very angry, of course, for being in prison, so that's the first thing he did. He devoured Son right then and there, and this broke the connection with the gods. You see, because he'd devoured Son, it released him from any ties to the gods. They could not control him anymore. He was free to just be without having those ties to the gods. He had broken them completely. This also meant that wherever Leviathan went, the gods would not be able to feel him. They could feel his energy. They wouldn't feel him, and they wouldn't be able to call on him. But Leviathan, even being like he was, he decided that he would feed more discreetly far away. And from then on, there is a belief that Leviathan still roams in the deepest, darkest parts of the sea and will forever carry on. It's been said that it's possible that gods made Leviathan greedy when they controlled him, and that he was brought to believe that all humans were bad, so he just did what came naturally and what he'd been told to do. And the way that he saw it was that the gods turned on him for his instructions, so he kind of felt like he'd been betrayed by the gods. And that's why he decided to eat Son, to cut the ties and be whomever he could. When he was free, he saw that just like gods and humans were like equal, because it seemed humans had good and bad, and the gods had good and bad, and he couldn't trust any of them. So he decided to just go to the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean where he could just be free and be himself, which would kind of make sense. But yes, legend still says, in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, Leviathan lives on. When there's shipwrecks, when boats go missing, when there's boats smashed to smithereens and no real explanation. It's believed by some that this is Leviathan. Temper tantrums, I suppose. But obviously, that's just a myth. Then we have Mushussu, or Mushussu, also known as Siriush, the ancient dragon. This is from Mesopotamian religion, and again, it's an attendant of the gods. Originally lived in the Babylonian palaces, but unfortunately he met his end at the hands of a prophet, Daniel. Apparently, by the way of poison, and not a great battle. So there was no great battle installed when this dragon was slain. Mesopotamian religion is one I've not really researched. So the dragon itself, I know by name, Mushussu and Siriush, but that religion I am not familiar with. But it's said that Mushussu, or Siriush, did actually live in a Babylonian palace, in a temple, and he was kind of a religious dragon in a way because he was an attendant to the gods. And this prophet Daniel, when he came in and he wanted to have clarification that this dragon was in the temple, well, he didn't like the idea of that, and he wanted to slay the dragon to prove that this dragon was no attendant of God, let's say. But there was no battle, he did just poison Mushussu, or Sirius. He did just poison the dragon, which is a bit cowardly, because people were expecting this large battle to take place, and it just never did. But it was a prophet called Daniel. I hope you enjoyed those 2 dragon myths. There are many more. There are so many more that I want to get through. There's everything from the Leviathan, a pet, Apophis, all the way to St. George's dragon, the Welsh dragon, and even the Yorkshire dragon. How interesting is that? So I do want to tell these tales because they're very interesting, and even though I do like mythology, I do like reading these stories, and I do like learning of them, and I think it doesn't matter that family had them wrote down as real, my family, crazy people, but I just want to share for myth reasons, just because it is believed that dragons do exist, just in a different dimension, and they do come into this dimension sometimes. But it is also believed that dragons are a representation of a possible prehistoric animal, dinosaur, or some sort of prehistoric lizard. I just want to make that clear so that you understand. Example, the water dragons that wouldn't necessarily fly, these are believed to be possibly prehistoric water dinosaurs that were referred to as dragons, just like the ones that are on land but have no wings. They are possibly prehistoric creatures that were lizard types, but obviously they were called dragons. And then there's the one with wings. Now, we know for a fact that there was giant birds in the sky. We have the bones, and archaeologists find them all the time. So it is believed that the dragon with wings was some sort of prehistoric dinosaur or creature that was some sort of bird-like creature anyway. So there is kind of something behind the stories in a way, that they possibly may have been some sort of prehistoric creature that's been altered a little along the way and given various things added to it and various things taken away, who knows. But if you look at the Chinese zodiac, the 12th zodiac sign being the dragon, all the other 11 animals are real and living today. So why would they put a dragon as the 12th if it was not real? Because maybe, just maybe, the dragon was real, but it was a prehistoric creature that adapted and changed. So once it had flight, another time it was made for water, another time for land. Not that they did not exist, but they were just something similar. They were given this name, I suppose. It's just a theory. I like that theory though, kind of makes sense. I hope you enjoyed these mythological stories, and I shall be back with many more. And remember, also various other beings, and I mean a lot. And once we start, there's no stopping me, because I've been like going through my grandma's books and translating things, and I'm so interested. It's very intriguing. Love and light, and many, many blessings.